Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and the second chapter 10. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Not continuing. Today we completing this canto, and we will start tomorrow. Canto third. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam
Narayanam
Namaskritya
Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatah Jayam Mudirayat Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
Hare Krishna Shlok. We try to understand Shlok number 49 to 51. Today we completing this canto. Kshattu Kausharave Tasya Samvada Adhyatma Sanshritah.
Kshattuh Kausharah Vetasya Samvada Adhyatma Sanshritah.
Yatvasa Bhagwan Tasmai Pruштah Tattvam Uvachah.
Yatvasa Bhagavan Tasmai Pruštah Tattvam Uvachah.
Bruhina Tat Idam Saumya Vidurasya Vicheshtitam.
Bruhinah Tatidam Saumya Vidurasya Vicheshtitam.
Bandhu Tyaganimittam Cha Yatha Eva Agatavan Punah.
Bandhu Tyaga Nimittam Cha Yatha Eva Agatavan Punah.
Sutta Uvacha
Sutah Vacha.
Ragya Parikshita Pruштah Yat Avachan Mahamuni.
Ragyah Parikshitah Pruštah Yatva Uchan Mahan Munihi.
Tatvah Abhidasya Shrunata Ragya Prashna Anusarata.
Tatvabhidhasye Shrunutah Ragyah Prashnanusaratah.
Kshattu Kausharave Tasya Samvada Adhyatma Sanshritah.
Kshattu Kausharave Tasya Samvada Adhyatma Sanshritah.
Yatvasa Bhagavana Tasmai Pruштah Tattvam Uvachah.
Yatvasa Bhagavan Tasmai Prushta Tattvam Uvachah.
Bruhina Tat Idam Saumya Vidurasya Vicheshtitam.
Bruhinah Tat Idam Saumya Vidurasya Vicheshtitam.
Bandhu Tyaganimittam Cha Yatha Eva Agatavan Punah.
Bandhu Tyaga Nimittam Cha Yatha Eva Agatvan Punah.
Sutta Uvacha Ragya Parikshita Pruштah Yat Avachat Mahamuni. Tattva Abhidasya Shrunutah Ragya Prashna Anusaratah.
Sutah Vacha Ragya Parikshita Prushto Yat Avachan Mahamunihi Tattva Abhidasya Shrunutah Ragyah Prashna Anusaratah.
Kshattu Kausharave Tasya Samvada Adhyatma Sanshritah. Yatvasa Bhagwan Tasmai Pruштah Tattvam Uvachah. Bruhina Tat Idam Saumya Vidurasya Vicheshtitam. Bandhu Tyaganimittam Cha Yatha Eva Agatavan Punah. Sutta Uvacha Ragya Parikshita Pruштah Yat Avachat Mahamuni. Tattva Avidase Shrunutta Ragya Prashna Anusaratah. Hare Krishna.
Kshattu Kausharave Tasya Samvada Adhyatma Samshritah. यत्वा स भगवान् तस्मै पृष्टः तत्त्वम् उवाचः ब्रूहि न तत् इदं सौम्य विदुरस्य विचेष्टितं बन्धुत्यागनिमित्तं च यथा एवागतवान् पुनः। सूतः उवाच राज्ञा परीक्षिता पृष्टा यत् अवोचन् महामुनिः तद्वाभिदास्ये शृणुतः राज्ञः प्रश्नानुसारतः।
Translation and purport by the Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Śaunaka Rishi said, let us know, please, what topics were discussed between Vidur and Maitreya, who talked on transcendental subjects, and what was inquired by Vidura and replied by Maitreya. Also, please let us know the reason for Vidura's giving up the connection of his family members and why he again came home. Please also let us know the activities of Vidura while he was in the place of pilgrimage. Śrī Sūta Gosvāmī explained, I shall now explain to you the very subject explained by the great sage in answer to King Parikshit's inquiries. Please hear them attentively. Śrī Sūta Gosvāmī was narrating the topics of the creation and destruction of the material world, but it appears that the Rishi headed by Śaunaka were more inclined to hear of transcendental subjects, which are on a higher level than the physical. There are two classes of men, namely those who are too addicted to the gross body and the material world, and others on the higher level who are interested more in transcendental knowledge. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam gives facility to everyone, both to the materialist and to the transcendentalist. By hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in the matter of the Lord's glorious activities, both in the material world and in the transcendental world, men can derive equal benefit. The materialists are more interested in the physical laws and how they are acting, and they see wonders in those physical glamour. Sometimes, due to physical glamours, they forget the glories of the Lord. They should know definitely that physical activities and their wonders are all initiated by the Lord. The rose in the garden gradually takes its shape and color to become beautiful and sweet, not by a blind physical law, although it appears like that. Behind that physical law is the direction of the complete consciousness of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, things cannot take shape so systematically. The artist draws a picture of a rose very nicely with all attention and artistic sense, and yet it does not become as perfect as the real rose. If that is the real fact, how can we say that the real rose has taken its shape without intelligence behind the beauty? That this sort of conclusion is due to poor fund of knowledge. One must know from the above description of creation and annihilation that the supreme consciousness, being omnipresent, can take care of everything with perfect attention. That is the fact of omnipresence of the Supreme Lord. Person still more foolish than the gross materialists, however, claim to be transcendentalist and claim to have such supreme all-pervading consciousness, but offer no proof. Such foolish persons cannot know what is going on behind the next wall, yet they are falsely proud of possessing the cosmic, all-pervading consciousness of the Supreme Person. For them, also hearing of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a great help. It will open their eyes to see that simply by claiming supreme consciousness, one does not become supremely conscious. One has to prove in the physical world that he has such supreme consciousness. The rishis of Naimiṣāraṇya, however, were above the gross materialist and the false transcendentalists, and thus they were always anxious to know the real truth in transcendental matters as discussed by authorities. Any question that is put forward may be answered by quoting the authority, and that satisfies the Saner section. That is the system even in the law court. The best liar gives evidence from the past judgment of the court without taking much trouble to establish his case. This is called the parampara system, and learned authorities follow it without manufacturing rubbish interpretations. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadi Adi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Brahma Sahita 5.1. Let us all obey the Supreme Lord, whose hand is in everything without exception. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the second canto, 10th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the answer to all questions. End of the second canto. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavancha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitancha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubecha Krupa Sindhube Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasavadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna. Today we completing second canto and we try to understand shloka number 49 to 51. Here Śaunaka asking the Sūta Gosvāmī Maharaj about how and why Vidura left his connection of his family member and why he again came, and he again asking what discussion between both Vidura and Maitreya Munis, which topics on which topics they are discussing, and these all 3-4 questions answers they asking, and we will try to understand these question answers in third canto. Here Sūta Gosvāmī told that they explain which inquired Parikshit Maharaj to the Śaunaka Rishi. They told about the answers, and they request them to hear attentively. Prabhuji will tell us in nicely. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna.
Am I audible, Mataji? Yeah,
Yeah,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, as we have been discussing, this chapter is today finishing with introduction to the next canto, as Mataji has rightly explained to us right now. So, what we are getting introduced to through these three final shlokas of the 10th chapter is an important aspect of supreme consciousness being behind creation and the necessity of hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Sut Goswami has continued describing the creation, dissolution, but the sages of Naimiṣāraṇya, they show a deeper preference. They want to hear transcendental topics, not merely physical descriptions. So these verses, their purport, they reveal the profound truths about the supremacy of divine consciousness, the limitations of materialistic and pseudo-spiritual claims, and the universal relevance of the Bhagavad. Now, what is most striking here is the preference of the sages for transcendental knowledge. Although Sut Goswamiji was narrating the topics of creation and destruction, the sages, headed by Śaunaka Rishi, they desired topics of higher spiritual nature. They are not interested in merely understanding the mechanics of the cosmos, but wanted to hear about the absolute truth, the Lord's glories, and the transcendental discussions. So, what this does is it makes us aware of two categories of human beings. One are the gross materialists who are overly attached to the physical body and matter. And secondly, the pseudo-transcendentalist who claim spiritual realization without genuine proof. Now, both groups benefit from hearing Bhagavatam, which enlightens materialists and corrects the false pride of the false transcendentalists. And for devotees, it brings immense bliss. Because finally, it is the supreme consciousness which is directing all creation. A key point made in these verses is that matter does not organize itself. A rose does not acquire fragrance, color, and form by accident or blind physical laws. Behind every natural law is the complete consciousness of the Supreme Lord. Just as an artist's painting is inferior to the real rose, yet even the painting requires intelligence, attention, artistry. So too the real rose must be guided by a superior, omnipresent consciousness. This understanding dismantles the idea that the nature works automatically or independently. Newton wanted to refute the Big Bang theory. So one day he created a very nice model of the solar system that we are living in. In the morning, his friend came and he was highly impressed by the solar system model, and he said, "It is so good. How did it happen? How did you do it?" And Newton said, "There was a big bang and this got created." And the friend started laughing. So you mean to say that there was an explosion and this model of the solar system came automatically? So Newton said, "Yes, there was a bang and this model was created." Now the friend started laughing uncontrollably and he said, "Are you mad, Newton? How is it possible that from an explosion such beautiful model can be made? There has to be an intelligence, there has to be a plan by which this model is created." And Newton said, "Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. If this small model requires intelligence, the real definitely requires super intelligence. And that super intelligence, that superior omnipresent consciousness is nothing but Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare. So the Lord is omnipresent everywhere. The description of creation and annihilation, it teaches that the Supreme Lord is omnipresent. He can take care of everything with perfect attention simultaneously. The foolish may claim they have cosmic consciousness, but they cannot even know what is happening in the next room. Their claims are empty, simply boasting without substance. Thus, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it reveals that claiming divine consciousness is not the same as possessing it. Hare Krishna. Hare Ram,
Hare
Ram Ram,
Ram,
Hare Hare.
Ram, Hare.
So, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it helps everyone. Prabhupada explains that Bhagavatam benefits both the gross materialists who deny God's presence as well as the false transcendentalists who pretend to be God. By hearing of the Bhagavatam, the misconceptions dissolve and they understand the true supremacy of the Lord. The sages of Naimiṣāraṇya therefore embodied the mood of sincere seekers, always wanting truth from authoritative sources. And that is the mood with which we should also try to understand this important subject matter of Bhagavatam. Because Bhagavatam is not only a fruit of all the Vedic literature, it is an incarnation of the Lord Himself. So we need to respect, revere, and absorb the knowledge which comes from it. Because fundamentally, life comes from life. A fundamental conclusion which is expressed in the purport by Srila Prabhupada is life does not come from matter. Matter comes from life. So this is not theory, it is a fact. Matter undergoes 6 changes. It is born, it grows, it is maintained, it gives byproducts, it dwindles, and then death. But the spirit soul is eternal and undergoes no such transformation. Its size always remains the 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. So matter is dead until the living force animates it, like a car which is standing. But the moment a driver enters, starts the ignition and starts driving, it drives on the road, it glides. Otherwise, ek jagah pe khadi. So when the body can no longer function, the soul simply moves on to another body, just as one changes the old garments. Jirnani vastrani. We have that shloka from Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. But even this movement, it requires the living force. Nothing works automatically. The waves of the motion, the movement of the planets, the operation of machines, everything depends on a directing living force. A massive aircraft flies only because of a small spiritual spark, and that is the pilot. Similarly, the cosmic manifestation is guided by the supreme spiritual being, the supreme controller. Because ultimately everything operates under the direction of the Supreme Lord. He is the mastermind behind natural laws. His consciousness sustains and regulates all forms of life. Nothing is outside his supervision. Therefore, Prabhupada concludes, let us obey the Supreme Lord, whose hand is in everything, without exception. So, once when this lecture, this particular shloka was being explained, our senior brahmachari Prabhuji, he explained that Bhagavatam is so important because it shows us that this is not what life is for. Life is meant for hearing and chanting about Krishna. Life is meant for understanding that we are not this material body. We are Krishna's eternal servant, and Bhagavatam will help us to see that. Anything else is simply wastage of time. So this Chetana, this consciousness has to be built, has to be brought to the higher level. And that is what is done by Bhagavatam. That is why these rishis in Naimiṣāraṇya, they did not want to continue hearing about cosmos. They actually wanted to hear about the devotees. So we should be looking at the same aspect. We have examples of so many exalted devotees. Prahlad Maharaj. At such young age, they became such wonderful devotees. So we should also be trying to inculcate that habit and become servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Because it is in this mood of humility only that Krishna accepts us. Because this makes us ready to reach our eternal position of Jivera Swarup hai Krishnera Nityadas. So what these two shlokas are doing is they are making us aware of these particular facts. They teach us that true seekers crave transcendental knowledge, not superficial material narratives. Secondly, material nature is not independent. It operates under the Lord's perfect guidance. Thirdly, life originates from life, not from dead matter. Fourth, Bhagavatam is universally beneficial, rescuing both materialists as well as misguided transcendentalists. And fifth important aspect is that the Supreme Lord is the ultimate controller whose omnipresent consciousness sustains the cosmos. The sage's eagerness to hear about the absolute truth is the ideal mood for all spiritual aspirants. By regularly hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, one aligns with the Lord's will and advances towards eternal spiritual life. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.